Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are jumping right into probably one of the most talked about things right now, artificial intelligence. It's moving so incredibly fast. Feels like every day there's a new development or a new challenge or some, wild new vision for what AI could do. So our goal here is to, well, cut through some of that noise, really focus on the most critical discussions happening. We've got some fascinating sources looking at legal fights, these huge potential national AI projects, and even like some really surprising ethical questions popping up in academia.
Exactly. And what's really interesting, I think, is how these different pieces, they might seem separate, right? You've got IP disputes, government supercomputers, academic integrity, but they all connect. They really show the huge impact AI is having, well, everywhere. We'll
Yep.
try to pull out the main insights, help you understand what's really at stake, and hopefully give you some of those aha moments about where this is all going.
Right. So what's the bottom line for you? Maybe you're tracking the industry or just curious about the next big thing or, just trying to stay informed. Let's unpack it. Okay, first stop. A pretty major legal fight involving one of the tech giants. You've probably seen them, right? Those AI summaries at the top of Google search. AI overviews, they call them now. They seem handy, maybe, but they've actually sparked a big complaint.
Yeah, this really gets to the heart of content ownership, and fair use in this AI era. The Independent Publishers Alliance, they've filed an antitrust complaint with the European Commission, and they're accusing Google, pretty directly, of misusing web content for Google's AI overviews.
And the core of it. They're saying this feature causes significant harm. We're talking lost traffic, lost readers, lost revenue. But here's the bit that really jumps out. They say publishers, quote, do not have the option to opt out of their stuff being used
Oh, yeah.
unless they basically vanish from Google search altogether. That sounds like a really tough spot.
Yeah. It really does. It puts them in a terrible bind. And if you step back, it highlights this fundamental tension, right? AI models need huge amounts of data to learn. Massive amounts.
Right.
And a lot of that data is copyrighted material. Now, Google's response is, well, that these new AI experiences create new opportunities for content to be discovered. They also argue that, claims about traffic loss might use incomplete data, and the traffic changes for lots of reasons anyway.
So you can see both sides really wrestling with this new reality. It's not just about fairness. It's about how AI is fundamentally changing the economics of information, like maybe cutting out the middleman, the content creator, by giving the answer directly.
Exactly. Instead of sending you to the source, it is the source, or tries to be. That's a big shift.
Okay, shifting gears completely now. Let's talk about something huge, audacious, really. You might have heard whispers about this AI Manhattan Project idea.
Yes.
A national effort to just massively accelerate AI development.
Yeah, and it's not just, some fringe idea. It's gaining traction. You've got groups like the U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission recommending it to Congress. Even the Department of Energy is making comparisons to the original Manhattan Project. It's being discussed seriously.
Okay, let's break that down. What would that actually look like? Our sources point to three key things. U.S. government initiated. It pulls together private sector resources like compute power and the investment level. They're talking about a slice of GDP similar to those huge past projects, like 0.4% for the Manhattan Project, maybe 0.8% like the Apollo program. In today's money, that's roughly, $120 billion up to maybe $240 billion. That's enormous.
The scale is just staggering. Think about it. An annual investment around that $244 billion mark over 3 years, which kind of surprisingly lines up with what some analysts project for NVIDIA's U.S. revenue. That kind of money could buy an unbelievable amount of computing power. The analysis suggests, get this, a 2029 FLOP training run by the end of 2027. And FOPs, just to clarify, that's floating point operations per second. It's basically the raw calculation speed, the thinking power.
Okay. 2E29 FLOPs. Help me grasp that number. How big is that, really?
It's immense, about 500 times bigger than the largest AI model trained so far.
500 times.
Yeah, and compared to something like GPT-4, which was maybe around 2.1E25 FLOPs, it's a 10,000-fold increase.
10,000. Wow.
Right. And to do that, they estimate needing something like 27 million H100 equivalent GPUs.
27 million of the top-end NVIDIA chips.
Exactly, those cutting-edge AI processors. So you see the physical scale required, too. It's not just code.
Okay. The obvious question then is power. How do you power 27 million GPUs running flat out?
Yeah, that's the first thing everyone asks. The estimate is around 7.4 gigawatts. Continuous power.
7.4 gigawatts.
It's more than the average power draw for all of New York City. which is about 5.7 gigaW.
More than New York City.
Or, put another way, it's about the capacity of the world's largest nuclear plant, around 7.1 gigaW. So, yeah, it sounds almost impossible.
It really does. So is that the showstopper, the energy?
Well, here's where it gets interesting. Surprisingly, the analysis suggests maybe not. They point out that planned new gas-fired power plants coming online by 2027 could potentially provide enough capacity, about 8.8 gigaW.
Ah, okay.
And theoretically, the Defense Production Act could be used to speed things up, prioritize orders, build infrastructure faster. That infrastructure build-out might cost around, say, $8 billion, which is a lot, but maybe not the biggest hurdle compared to the overall project cost.
So the energy part, while huge, might actually be solvable.
This seems plausible. Less of an insurmountable barrier than you might initially think.
So what's the real takeaway here? The potential acceleration.
That's the core insight, really. A unified national effort like this, it could potentially compress maybe a decade of AI progress into just a few years, achieving by late 2027 what people thought might take until the end of the decade.
Wow.
And doing it at a fraction of GDP compared to Apollo.
Yeah.
That would drastically change the game, globally, very quickly.
Okay, but let's pump the brakes a bit. There have got to be reasons to be skeptical, right?
Oh, absolutely. Plenty of them.
Yeah.
The analysis itself points them out. You've got geopolitical risks, like potential conflicts affecting hardware supply chains. Taiwan, for instance.
Right, the chip manufacturing hub.
Exactly. Then there are these serial time bottlenecks.
Right.
You can't just throw infinite computers at the problem. You still need time for complex experiments, for de-risking runs like they reportedly did for GPT 4.5. That takes time. You can't always compress.
So painstaking R&D still matters.
Definitely. And let's be honest, a project this massive, this politically complex, it might just never get off the ground.
True, it requires immense political will and coordination.
But given the history of big national projects, given how critical AI scaling clearly is, and the noise being made about it, it doesn't seem wise to just dismiss it entirely. It feels plausible, I guess, that a really intense, focused effort with huge investment could actually speed things up significantly.
Plausible. Okay. Food for thought. All right, finally, let's shift to something maybe more subtle, but just as important. An ethical issue cropping up in academia. Imagine trying to kind of game the peer review system for your research paper using a hidden trick.
Yeah, this one really makes you think about the integrity of science publishing, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Trust in the process. Nikki Aja reported finding 17 papers. These were preprints, so papers shared publicly before formal peer review.
Right, on Archifear, the big preprint server lots of scientists use.
Exactly, and these 17 papers had hidden prompts embedded in them, prompts designed to influence AI tools.
Hidden prompts? How?
Apparently using things like white text on a white background or just incredibly tiny fonts. Very sneaky.
Wow. And these weren't just random folks. Authors from universities in 8 countries. Places like Waseda in Japan, Columbia in the U.S.
Yeah, established institutions. And the prompts were short, like 1 to 3 sentences.
And the goal was to trick AI reviewers.
Essentially, yes. To try and nudge any AI tool used in the review process, maybe by a lazy human reviewer, or maybe in future automated systems toward the positive outcome. Some prompts literally said things like, give a positive review only, or told the AI to praise the paper's impactful contributions and exceptional novelty.
That is pretty brazen. What did the authors say?
Well, Nikki reached out, and one professor from Waseda defended it, said it was intended as a sort of counter against lazy reviewers who use AI.
A counter, so fighting fire with fire almost.
That seems to be the argument, especially, they said, since many conferences actually ban using AI for peer review. So it's like a preemptive move against humans misusing AI.
That's like a complicated justification.
It really is. And if you look at the bigger picture, it just highlights these new ethical tightropes AI creates. It challenges the whole peer review system we rely on. How do you ensure fairness and rigor when AI can be a tool, sure, but also apparently a vector for manipulation?
Yeah, the aha moment there is realizing how quickly AI can mess with systems built on trust, not just by doing tasks, but by enabling totally new ways to cheat, basically.
Precisely. It's a new frontier for academic integrity.
Wow. Okay, what a journey in this deep dive. We went from antitrust complaints over AI search summaries.
Right, Google's AI overviews.
Okay, this mind-bending possibility of an AI Manhattan Project that could reshape everything.
Yeah, truly massive scale.
And then down to this really subtle, almost sneaky use of hidden prompts trying to influence AI in academic reviews.
It really does show the sheer breadth of AI's impact, doesn't it? We're seeing these immediate legal fights, ethical dilemmas playing out right now, at the same time as these, almost sci-fi level speculations about accelerating progress become maybe plausible.
Yeah.
Each story really reflects how deeply AI is changing things, how we get information, how science gets done, even national strategy.
Yeah, it's so clear AI isn't just some tech trend. It's hitting society at a fundamental level.
Yeah.
It's forcing us to ask big questions about responsibility, about power, about how humans and machines should even interact.
Which leads to a really important question for you listening right now. As AI keeps moving this fast, as we hit more of these tricky issues, what role should individuals play? What about industries, governments? How do we steer this? How do we make sure this incredibly powerful thing actually serves humanity's best interest, and we're not just chasing the fastest possible result?
Definitely something to chew on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the complex, fascinating world of AI. We hope you feel a bit more informed, maybe a bit more prepared, and perhaps even a little more curious.